There is another fairly major event tonight. The Indy is having some kind of an award ceremony. So I know a number of our people are there, so they will appreciate the recording.
Yeah, it's the DEI Awards.
Right.
At the Great Wolf Lodge. Which I've always wanted to go to that place, but guess I'll have to wait for another opportunity.
Is that the one with the water slides?
Yeah, it's got a big water park. I'm a big water park fan. Although there are certain parts of the water park that I exceed the weight limit on, so.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, there is that.
I think we're getting past the time.
I think you're, well, I'm well past the time, Judith.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. All right. There we go. We got captions on. All right. We will go ahead and get started. Thank you, first of all, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate having you here. I think communication has just been a little all over the place, so we're happy to have everybody in one place, or most people in one place. So just a little update on the campaign. For those of you who don't know, Marc is running for re-election in House District 18. We're really excited to have him again. Unfortunately, because of redistricting, his seat is much more competitive than in years past. So in the past, he had about a 4-point Democrat advantage. This year, that has gone down to 0.3 Democrat advantage. So really, it's a toss-up. It's one of the most competitive races in the state at this point. So it's really crucial that we can be as coordinated as possible in getting out there, talking to people, talking to voters, making sure that they vote so that we can keep the seat. Marc, do you have anything to add to that?
Well,
I got your
thank you.
spiel down, but
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Judith, for putting this together. It's been a new thing for all of us. I don't know if anybody's been through a redistricting like we have with the 2020. And everything Claire said is correct, but the truth is we're going to win this thing. We're going to win this thing with just a relentless push right up to election day, doing everything we can. We're right at the point where we're going to be transitioning from persuasion, which is what we've been doing for the last 6-8 weeks, really to the get out the vote, GOTV. And that is going to be we're going to need all of it. We're going to need to get every Democrat registered and voting. We're going to need to get a lot of unaffiliates. I've always gotten some crossover Republican votes, but I think most of those people have left the Republican Party at this point. So I don't know why, but I remain really optimistic and really enthused that we're gonna come through this with a victory. But thank you all for being here and for volunteering your time and energy to getting us over the finish line. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you and getting out, knocking on doors, and everything we can to make sure that we keep House District 18 in the Democratic column. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So far we have really been focusing on new parts of Marc's district. So we've really been focusing on, it's been like the Broadmoor area, Holland Park area, as well as up into Green Mountain Falls. So that's where most of our efforts have been taking place so far, because we want people to become familiar with Marc as their new state representative. In the coming weeks, the first half of October, we are going to be switching to old parts of the district. So I think most of y'all fall into old parts of Marc's district. And so that's why you're here. So we're going to be walking in your precinct. We would love to have your help in walking your precinct. Volunteers have been really difficult to come by this year. I'm not really sure why. We're calling so many people, but nobody wants to do it. So we would really love your help in walking your precinct specifically for Mark. I know y'all have been potentially doing stuff with the coordinated campaign. But we'd really like to get some specifically for Mark stuff out there. So we would love for you all to come and knock with us for one weekend in October, just like 1 or 2 days in October. And you can email us or Izzy, our field organizer, will be calling you to find a weekend that we can come and walk with you. So additionally, we are going to start putting out signs. I know everybody's really eager for sign placement. So we are going to be putting out signs at the beginning of October. So if you have ideas on where signs should go in your precinct, houses that are on a good corner or on a busy street, send me those ideas. I will put my email in the chat for everybody so that you can send me your ideas. And we can coordinate with y'all to work to get those out. Any questions on sign placement or knocking in your neighborhood? Yeah, Molly. I think you're muted, Molly. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you
got
hear
it.
me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I wondered, do you know where we cannot put signs? Because we can't put any signs in Brookdale or along the area on Lower Gold Camp, except there's a vacant lot that has paid sign on the corner of 21st Street and Lower Gold Camp. It looks like a good place, but I think I put things there before and they got taken, or I don't know. Then across the street by the dog park, that corner also, and then down by the library, I put signs of the Cheyenne Mountain Library on 8th Street. But all of them have had, the signs have been taken within a week. So yeah. I don't know, how do we find out if that's a viable place or not?
So we're working on getting a public sign permit for public property. I know that signs get stolen all the time. That's not necessarily going to stop that, but at least that's allowed. One thing we can do is if it is on somebody's personal property, so like a yard, they kind of take ownership over that and kind of keep people from stealing it. Mark, do you have any ideas from past elections or?
Sure, I'd love to talk a little bit about this. And thank you, Claire. We are getting a Colorado Springs City sign permit, and that really allows you to put them in all the public spaces. Generally speaking, it's between the sidewalk and the street, but you know, there are crews that come out and mow those areas. So a lot of times, Molly, some of the signs that we put out, the crews take those down when they cut the grass, and I don't know what they do with them. But Claire's absolutely right. Preference is to get them on private property, but even if you're going to put them in the right of way, that sidewalk area between the sidewalk and the street, it's good to talk to the property owner right there in front of that and make sure it's okay with them. It's just a good courtesy. And what I was thinking with our precinct organizers is, you know, maybe if we could have each of them scout out their precinct and come up with the 3 best locations, because people that live there, they know the best locations. And the old parts of the district, really, we've got it down. It's our 3rd election for those areas, and we know a lot of the great places. My old house, District 18, you could take 70 signs and place them in the right places, and you get 95% of the voters driving by. Our new district is much more larger geographically, and so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to really identify those spots in new areas. But That would be one thing I think would be wonderful. I think the precinct organizers know their neighborhoods the best, and they maybe know other Democrats or people to be willing to put one in a very visible yard. But we're really counting on that local approach.
What about the parks, like Bear Creek Park? Can we put them along the road there?
Yes, you'd have to specifically look at every spot and make sure it's in that public right of way. So the public right of way runs from the furthest edge of the sidewalk across the street to the other side to the furthest edge of that sidewalk. So all of that space is considered the public right of way. There are some rules about you can't put a sign where it might obstruct drivers' view of, oncoming traffic or trying to make a left or a right. If there's already another sign there, I think you have to stay at least 4 or 5 feet away from that sign. You can't block it. But as we've all pointed out, signs have a way of disappearing. So I know our opponent has had some big signs up on some vacant lots, and that irks me a little bit because folks get concerned. But really, the signs don't have the longest lifespan. Studies show that after about 72 hours or so, they just become part of the background. So our hope is really to have a point, maybe, October 1st, even something like that, 18 days before ballots are going out to people's homes, and really kind of spend one weekend there and just blitz the whole district with signs going up. But really to have each sign attached to somebody who's a caretaker, a property owner, is really the best way to go. Your best chance of keeping them up for the duration of the election period.
Go ahead, Judith.
Yeah, I am unmuted. Good. For our precinct organizers, do you want them to focus on finding 3 good sites on private property? I know as I'm looking at who's here, most of the people here are in the old area.
Yeah.
Where Mark's got a very clear idea of where he wants his public signs. So do you want our POs to focus on finding highly visible private areas instead?
That would be, yes, that would be the first choice. But obviously some of the locations may not be as desirable as others. So public spaces with our permit, I think, would be our close second choice for the ideal places to put signs.
Hi, I'm Carrie, and I am precinct organizer for 726. So I am in Cheyenne Canyon and the Broadmoor.
Yeah.
And I've been canvassing the last 2 weekends. I've compiled a list of about 20 people who are willing to put signs in their yards along Cheyenne and along all over, but really visible places. And so I'm hoping to have at least 50 by the end of this coming weekend.
Great. Yeah, send us those names and where they are. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I did have one concern or question, and I called to see about this on Sunday while I was out. When I first canvassed, I went with Mark and we walked the canyon and we hit a few homes. And then I did another list in my minivan, and it was Lazy Dems, I think it was. And so, but I noticed that a couple of the houses were on this one house was on the different list, but my inputs from the time I walked with Mark was not visible. And that really concerned me. Is that something, I don't know.
Yeah, so with minivan, those inputs don't carry over to any new lists, but they do in van. So if I were to go into van and look at the houses that you knocked, I could see their survey responses and that you knocked them. But minivan is really terrible in carrying over data from one list to another.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Super frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some issues with that at the beginning of the campaign. Yeah. So
one thing we haven't mentioned yet is a lot of folks that have been in House District 18 and are still in it, many of them have signs in their garage. So we're going to be sending out an email and advertising, hey, if you have a sign from 2 or 4 years ago, time to dust it off and get it out. And I think that'll be an additional presence we have with signs that we haven't really accessed yet.
Yeah, Judith.
Claire,
Yeah.
what's the best way for these precinct chairs to get in touch, get scheduled with you for walking in their precinct?
Great question. They can email Izzy. So it's Izzy, IZZY. She can put her email in the chat, and maybe her phone number also. But she is the one who's coordinating all of our walks. So you might have gotten a call from her already. But yeah, get in touch with her. And then that actually leads into my last thing that I wanted to talk about, which is a really intense get out the vote the weekend before the election. So this would be November 5th and 6th. And our goal that weekend is to go out all day, Saturday and Sunday, and basically chase ballots. So we'll have lists of people that have not turned in, Democrats that have not turned in their ballots yet. And we're gonna go knock on their doors. It's not like confrontational at all. Most people are just like, oh, I totally forgot to vote. But you're gonna say like, hey, have you voted? Where's your ballot? And you gotta kind of be persistent with them. And then say, hey, you know, we want you to vote. You know, let's get your ballot. Go ahead and fill it out. Do you know where your nearest drop box is? Great. Can you get that to the drop box today? Because, you know, we talked about lazy Dems earlier, where they just leave their ballot on the kitchen counter and it gets buried in mail and forget to vote. So we are looking to have volunteers walking every single precinct, those lazy Dems, November 5th and 6th.
Could
So,
there be any callers that call
say what?
people? Could there be any callers? I have a number of people who won't get out, but they will call people.
Calling is a second choice. So if you can't find anybody to walk, we'll take callers. But I think the walking is most effective, just like walking and knocking on people's doors to persuade them to vote for Mark is most effective.
Our
but-
people are a lot older.
Yeah.
I'm in a retirement village, so
Yeah,
there are
Yeah.
people that
if you
Can't
have
or
people
won't.
that would be willing to call, yeah. We prefer walkers, but if people can call, we can put them to work also. So it would be really helpful for you all to start finding volunteers to walk. If they could dedicate just 2 hours that last weekend, it's a pretty easy sell. Just 2 hours that last weekend to go and chase ballots. We won't be turning people's ballots in for them necessarily, because you can only do 10 before you're breaking the law. But we just want to make sure that they remember about their ballot and will turn it in that weekend, or at the very latest before Tuesday.
Claire, will you be providing lists?
Oh yeah, we'll provide lists. We'll provide, you know, the van lists, all of that stuff. We just need volunteers to walk.
So we can assume that each of our chairs will get a chase list.
Yes, they certainly will. Yeah,
For each precinct.
absolutely.
And-
Every
and that-
precinct will get a chase list, probably the Wednesday before that weekend.
Cool.
And those lists of ballots received are updated at least once a day. It might even be twice a day. So it's an evolving thing. So probably, even though we send out, you know, we have an early list of people whose ballots have been received, we'll probably want to check them the morning of or the night before and make sure that we're not hitting on people that have or ballots that were mailed in and just got received.
Yeah.
And as Claire mentioned, 10 is the legal limit for the number of ballots one person can collect. But, you know, there are a lot of folks, for one reason or another, whether they have a disability or, you know, or not mobile, don't have a car, maybe they can't get to a drop box. If you run into someone like that, if you get them to fill out their ballot, sign it, comply with all the requirements, if that's the only option they have, go ahead and grab that ballot and put it in a box yourself when you're done with that. But keep a tabs on the number you're doing. The first choice is to encourage people to drop them off themselves. But for people who absolutely don't have that option, we'd rather get their ballot and turn it in.
Yeah. And when you're doing that, also just encourage them to vote all the way down the ballot, because Mark will be towards the bottom. So they can't just vote for Bennett and Polis and then just skip the rest of them. We want them to vote all the way down the ballot. Yes, so we will continue to be in touch about walking in October, and then walking with us November 5th and 6th, and making sure that that goes as smoothly as possible. But really the big ask for you all right now is 3 locations for yard signs and as many volunteers as you can muster for that last weekend, 2 hours. Yes. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Mark, or I think I got it all, but.
I think you've covered everything. I just
Okay.
want to once again thank everybody for being on this call and for volunteering. You know, I know it's been kind of a weird year. Everybody I know of, every campaign has had trouble getting volunteers. But as we're getting closer to the election now, hopefully people are tuning in a little better and really press upon them that these last 6 weeks are going to make all the difference. And now's the time to clear some time for us and for the good cause, and really, you know, energize yourself, get other people energized, create excitement, and you know, really carry that excitement all the way through to November 8th.
Yeah. Julie, there are t-shirts available. If you come and volunteer with us, you will get a t-shirt. We got tons of t-shirts. Let's see, yard signs are going to start October 1st is what we're thinking. Yes. So
I have a question. What about the crossover into, you know, Polis? And I mean, can we, if someone agrees to put one of Mark's signs up, should we ask them? Because the literature that I had last weekend, which I picked up at the office, it had Mark's stuff. Oh God. Every vote matters, and then one of Jared Polis's. So should we be asking if we could put a Polis sign too, or no?
you can. I'm not in charge of the Polis signs, but that could
I'm thinking any
move its way up the chain. Yeah, you could do that. I think at least on the Bennett side, the conversations that we're hearing at doors, as well as polling, is that nobody is polling well at the federal level. So nobody's happy with the federal government right now, because there's gridlock, they don't get anything done. And so we don't necessarily want to associate Mark with that happening, because Mark gets a lot done at the State House. So I think with that, at least with Bennett, we want to be a little bit careful about how we're associating with Bennett. Yeah.
If I could add on to what Claire has said, that's a really good point. That is also why we have our own canvases, because I know you all have to deal with a lot of communication from all sorts of sides, and like the coordinated is definitely also going to ask you for some time, and we would be so grateful if you were willing to give time to both of us, because a lot of the outreach we are doing is like Claire said, like needs to be more localized and just somewhat separate from just all the candidates down the list. If that makes any sense. Yeah. And on that note, I will send a follow-up email to this, and it would be the most helpful and easiest thing if you could just check your calendar as soon as you see the email and just shoot me a reply with a date that you think you'll be free, because then we'll coordinate a list of that dates and we'll like meet with the coordinated and make sure there's like some clear communication happening with who's asking you to do what. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Are there any other questions at the moment? You can always email, Izzy put her email in there, so you can always email or call her, and she can get it to me, or I'll put my email in there also.
Hey, Claire, I do have one question.
Yeah.
And sorry if I missed it. I heard you talking about yard signs.
Yeah.
We're only down to like one yard sign, I think, maybe two at the party office.
Yeah.
We do have folks that come by, you know, ask occasionally. Do you have any more now, or are you expecting a shipment in? What's your situation on yard signs?
We have more at the office. I don't believe we're getting another shipment in. I can give you a few.
Yeah, can you
probably.
give us just a few? Yeah, not a whole
Yeah.
ton. If you could, next time you're down there, if you could just drop a few by the local Dems office.
Yeah.
That'll be great, because
Okay.
people do pick them up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, John, I will say that I probably miscalculated. I did not order another batch of signs. We had over 150 of them to start with. I didn't realize how geographically large the district is now compared to the compact district before. So, you know, we'd love to put one in everybody's yard who wants one, but we're really going to have to be more strategic, and the most highly visible locations are going to have to be our priority.
Okay, yeah, all good. So yeah, with that said, Claire, then if you know, if you don't, because what we do is we just kind of put them out there, and you know, if people will grab a Bennett sign or the Bell, if you want to be strategic, then we always need to keep a couple, because we go to like fairs and festivals and stuff, and then we want to stick them for that purpose, you know. So okay.
If I have extra, you'll be first on my list.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sure.
No, whatever you want. If you've got strategic locations, then go there first. But if you've got extra, just drop them off. So
Awesome.
We do have a lot of what I call window signs. They're smaller, but they're the exact same as the yard signs. Those could be repurposed into yard signs for people if we need to. So we probably have another 60 of those that would be easy to turn into a mini yard sign.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Are there any maps of our precincts, so we know what the geographical location and the streets that are in the precinct are?
Yes.
Those do exist. Yes, we can send those to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when the first maps I ordered, Molly, the district was so large, it was hard to see the streets. So I had new blown up sections of the really populated areas. So we have those, and I'm not sure if Claire or Izzy, somebody could help get those maybe online, and we could even mail out to the precinct organizers a blow up of their exact precinct.
Yeah,
that really
we can do that. Yeah, of course.
Doesn't it come up in VAM?
So it does, but it's hard to
maps.
find the map. Yeah.
And they're awful when you find them.
Yeah.
Van has a lot of growing to do, I think. A lot of getting better to do, for sure.
And Judith, did you want me to return those lists to you or the office?
Either
the caller
one.
list.
Whatever's easiest for you, Molly. You can drop them on my porch and I'll take them in, or you can take them down to the office.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I'll get them either way. We're talking now, Claire, about the county drop that we just finished.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for being on. I will give you back the rest of your evening. If you could just email us those 3 best locations and then start finding volunteers. And anytime you find a volunteer, just send them over to us. That would be great. Yeah, and we'll be in touch with all sorts of other information. All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Go, Mark.
Goodbye from a
Yay.
strip mall in Castle Rock is where I am right now.
That's exciting.
But getting back on the highway and heading home here. So thank you to everybody so much. And together we're going to get this thing done, and we're going to be very happy people come November 9th.
Yes.
Yes, we are indeed. All right.
right.
Have a good
Good
night,
night, everybody.
everybody.
Mhm.
Bye, everybody.